George Pickens escaped being traded during the 2025 NFL Draft, but he's not in the clear just yet. In fact, recent reports suggest that Pickens' days in Pittsburgh could be numbered. Hey everyone, Rob Gregson of A to Z Sports Pittsburgh, and today we're going to break down the recent reports surrounding George Pickens' future with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Late last week and into the weekend, we had multiple reports from both Jerry Dulac and James Palmer that the situation between the Steelers and George Pickens is not great. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he won't play in 2025, but just about everywhere you turn, it looks like George Pickens will not be back after this upcoming season. There was a time when we were discussing how much George Pickens might make in a contract extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, those days, they are officially over. The Steelers are very likely to move on from George Pickens, whether that's as soon as trading him before the season, at the midseason trade deadline, or just letting him walk in free agency when the season ends and March comes around next year. It's very unlikely that we see George Pickens with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. And frankly, it's not a surprise, but it doesn't mean that it's not a disappointment. George Pickens, when he is on his game, is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. One of the most entertaining, but also one of the best. Nobody, and I mean nobody in the league, can go up and win 50-50 balls the way George Pickens can. Obviously, he's developed his route running. You look at his stats the last 2 years, easily going over 1,000 yards in 2023 with 3 different quarterbacks named Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. Then last year, still nearly getting to 1,000 yards despite missing 3 games with a hamstring injury and multiple quarterbacks again. There's no question that when he's on the field and he's at his best, he is an elite wide receiver talent in the league. The problem is everything that goes on in between the ears for George Pickens, whether that's on Sundays, in the game, after the game, during the week. He just has yet to show the maturity that the Pittsburgh Steelers would like. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers, of all teams, we're talking about a franchise that's dealt with Le'Veon Bell, with Antonio Brown, with Plexico Burress, you can go down the line. This is a franchise that's far from being scared of any character or any character concern. If they are saying we don't want to extend George Pickens, if they are saying we are going to move on and select a new wide receiver or sign a new wide receiver to replace George Pickens in free agency in next year's NFL draft, that says a lot about George Pickens and his future in the NFL in general. So for the Steelers, it's a disappointment, but it's not a surprise. They knew what they were getting when they took George Pickens out of Georgia back in 2022. They knew that the most talented wide receiver in the class, one could argue, fell to the second round for a reason. His knee was clean. Obviously, we've seen him remain extremely durable. Everything that was reported about being a character concern, it's all come to fruition. It's all come to light. And while none of it is extremely serious, it just makes for a huge headache. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are tired of that headache.